Ijewere joining us on Nigerian Decides live studios of independent television and radio. Our panelists for this segment, I'd like to thank very especially Chief A.B. Thomas. He's been with us from 7 o'clock or thereabout when we started this morning. Chief, many things are coming.
Thank you very much.
Oh, many things for staying with us, actually. We also have in the studio Professor Edi Iragbe. Is a very senior lecturer from the University of Benin. As a matter of fact, the Dean Faculty of Arts, and is also a regular on politics today. Many things are coming.
Thank you very much, and good morning.
We have with us another professor from Novena University, a professor of business administration, but very versatile on political matters. Let me thank very especially Professor Tony Ijewere. Prof, many things are coming.
It's a pleasure to be here.
I have with us the former NBA Benin branch chairman, Barrister Edi Asenogwa. Barrister Edi Asenogwa, many things are coming.
Thank you very much, and good morning, listeners.
Okay, because Barrister Adam Sulu is everywhere, so let me just allow him to take a break and get his show on course with the new entrance. Prof, let me start with you, Professor Edi Iragbe. Okay. What was your initial reaction to the news of this postponement? Was it something you anticipated in any way?
I would say that by the time I went to bed last night, the news was already coming on, although there were still denials at about 1 o'clock because Sahara reporters and some of the other Vanguard online and others, including, of course, your station, were already highlighting the fact that signals they were getting were pointing to the fact that there was going to be a postponement. But the INEC national, the publicity man at the time, that is talking of Barrister Okoye, was still saying that everything was on course for the elections. So when at about 6 this morning, I woke up to discover that it has been postponed, it was like, oh, what was we're scared of had actually happened. But I would say that even by yesterday, before the night, there were already signs that all was not going well in terms of the preparations for the elections. Okay. This, taking it in context, to the extent that from our own state here, with the reports were on, that some of the very sensitive and important materials that were required for the elections were not going to be available. And to that extent, there were already cries that there were the plans to have staggered elections, which would have meant that elections would have taken place in some states where materials and all were available, and some few states, about 6 or more, would have been denied conducting their own elections today, and theirs would have had to come up later. And then the whole argument about, in quote, the Osun option started coming up as one of the plans that were to be used. Okay. So in that kind of scenario or setup, I would think that having to now postpone based on the realities on ground, I believe was the right thing to do. Okay. It is a painful thing, but we know, as normal human beings and all, seriously, that even when a game is on, football or any of those things, circumstances can bring about postponement. But definitely here, it is not excusable to the extent that what has happened now was human failure, as almost accepted by Jagahi, that is by Mahmoud Yakubu, to the extent that, oh, our plans, our logistics, and things that we had did not work out. One would have thought that having the long time to prepare for these elections, you normally, even in conducting exams, you have what you call mock exams. Mock exams are things that you do to see how it will play out, like a dress exactly on the exact day of the exercise. Okay. So to that extent, for example, I would have thought that the movement of these sensitive materials or all of that, there should have been calculations. What time do we require? What are the logistics involved? And then you try. It's not the first time that we are conducting elections. So it's a monumental failure as far as this conduct of elections is concerned, a monumental embarrassment to us as a nation, that a matter of this nature for which we have been planning and all, we are not able to deliver, as it were. So, but what we must face, and this, I'm being realistic here, is that the damage has been done. And when things like this happen, all you must now do is to make sure that you correct the errors or what have been identified as the logistic challenges, and then the new dates that have been taken will, of course, now be feasible and realistic.
Okay. Professor Anthony Ijewere, let me come to you now. In the build-up to the election on Wednesday, on Thursday, INEC said they were ready. Thursday, there was a presidential broadcast assuring Nigerians that the election will go on as planned. So what are your thoughts?
My brother, I'm seriously disappointed. Disappointed in the sense that the last Federal Executive Council, whereby they invited the Professor Yakubu, chairman of INEC, and said, hey, what's going on? You said, we said everything is set. And mind you, this election ought to have taken 4 years, a whole 4 years to prepare. And each time is being asked, are you sure February is feasible? We say, no, everything is. In fact, when some people were even agitating, some Nigerians were agitating that the election should be shifted, I said, no, it can never, that the INEC is prepared. You know, so he cannot turn around now and say, well, we're experiencing logistic problem, we're experiencing that problem. After collecting 260-something billion for this election, we expect that he would have prepared for this for this election, to the disappointment of Nigerians. You see, you should take into consideration that it's not just Nigeria per se. The world is watching, and the world is here in Nigeria. You know, in the form of international observers and what have you. And it has also given us a very bad image as a country who is not prepared. So I'm as angry as any other Nigeria. INEC don't just have any excuse. This is my position. Okay,
Barrister Eddie Asenongwa, I probably want you to also build on that. Excuses have been given. One of it from the report that we heard a while ago is majorly because of logistical challenges. We know that things can pop up at the last minute that could result to things of this nature being. For example, in one of the reports, we saw party agents complaining that result sheets were just coming at such late night. So I don't know what your thoughts are too.
Well, as an individual, first, I must say that I am not disappointed at the postponement. For those who are close to me, I have always indicated to them that I foresee this postponement. And up till the yesterday, when there were still assurances, I had personally my reservations. And because of that, there were certain things I was looking out for. And because I wasn't seeing it, it further enhanced my suspicion that there was going to be a postponement. Now, for me, INEC does not have any excuse, tenable excuse whatsoever. I appreciate the fact that it is within their powers, as provided for by Section 26 of the Electoral Act, to postpone an election. But that section talks about the grounds: breach of peace, natural disaster, and emergencies. Emergency. I want to underline that because that would seem to be the only place they can hide under. Now, the same law says those grounds or conditions for postponement must be cogent and verifiable. Now, what reasons have we been given? That result sheets didn't come, that logistics were not in place after 4 years, with all the assurances, with all the money that have gone into it, with all the preparations that have been made locally and internationally. We have had people who travel from outside this country into Nigeria to be able to vote. We have had observers who came in at their cost, who have made arrangements for the number of days they will stay and go back after the elections. Now elections have been put. Are they going to go back and come back? We have had Nigerians who, maybe people who of Edo State, who have had to travel from Lagos or Kano to come to their state to vote so that they can go back after the weekend. Now they are here. Elections were postponed in the dead of night. Come on. There is no excuse. For me, it is a natural disgrace, it's a national embarrassment to Nigeria and to the leadership of this country. It has shown clearly that our leaders do not have any thoughts for Nigeria and for Nigerians. The reason now being canvassed, result sheets. These result sheets also have been available at CBN weeks or months before now. Why were these issues not verified? That the result sheets were not available. What is the reason why they are not available? That is not just coming, you are discovering it
a big suspect.
You are discovering it few hours to commencement of polls. So for me, it is a charade. This, I believe, is what has been, maybe part of the options that were on the table, both for INEC and the ruling party.
Okay.
I make both to say so.
Okay. Just to let you know that in a moment we'll be taking reports from our guys on the ground to let us know what the city is like in terms of the postponement of the election. I mean, we want to know the situation with the INEC office in Benin and several other places where we already have our reporters deployed to be able to give you up-to-the-minute coverage of the 2019 elections across Edo State. So we'll have that coming up. But Mr. Thomas, the major opposition party, the PDP, has condemned the postponement. The ruling party, the APC, through their spokesperson, the Presidential Campaign Council, has condemned the postponement. What do you make of this?
First, I want to align myself with Professor Ijawere and Barrister Aseregwan's position. I totally adopt everything they have said. Coming to your question, it is the game plan of APC. This is their game plan. For every Nigerian I have seen, or 95% of Nigerians I have seen in Benin, they were looking up to today like you are going into Christmas or New Year. It was an opportunity to vote out a president that has not been doing his job. But you see,
you couldn't have been so sure that it was an opportunity to vote at the
it was an opportunity.
It could have been the other way around. No. By Sabi Thomas, let us establish that. Let us establish that.
Let me speak.
Yes, I know.
You see, as at 4 p.m. yesterday, I started getting these hints from Al Jazeera. Then at 7 p.m., while reading Sahara Reporters, there was a report that the National Security Advisor has sent a memo asking for the postponement of this election. I read it and I said, we're at it again. Then I've heard somebody say here that there was a possibility of staggered elections.
Yeah.
Why do you want staggered elections? Why do you want staggered elections? When INEC all along, they'll be saying they are ready. On Wednesday, the INEC chairman said he was ready. Everything they said they were ready. Up to yesterday morning, they said they were ready. INEC does not have any reason. There was an interference. I believe there was an interference to ask INEC to postpone. Why will there be any option of staggered election? So that you can concentrate security people on Osun or Edo, the 6 states that were to be excluded from the elections, where states they felt would be unfavorable to them, so that you can put security men first upon them the Osun option. Why was it that the election, the decision to postpone the election took place at midnight? Why? If it is true that they were having logistic problems, if it is true they were having all these problems they are saying, by Wednesday, the INEC chairman would not have been categorical that they were ready. The voter education director would not have been saying, we are ready. These are excuses that is costing Nigeria billions, is costing even me individually. I'm vexed.
Okay.
I'm angry.
Okay.
And I am saying, Nigeria must, if you say independent, look, let us be honest with ourselves. Don't stop me. You say INEC is independent. If INEC really had serious reasons, those reasons would have been discussed in the afternoon, not in the night. After I read Sahara Reporters that NSA was asking for a postponement because 20 states will be lost. So if these are all put juxtaposed with those who are supporting INEC, my own position is this: if the judiciary can be tampered with,
Is it INEC?
Judiciary that is independent.
Okay.
Yes. Is it independent national electoral that is
all right.
independent?
Let's stay on course. Let's stay on course.
Yes, we're on course.
Yes, let's stay on course.
There was an interference.
Okay.
INEC is not independent.
Okay. Well, it's called Independent National Electoral Commission. That's what we know it to be. Prof, I raised an issue. I'm sure you heard it. PDP is condemning INEC's action. APC is condemning INEC's action. What do you make of this?
Well, of course, when this kind of national decision, monumental implications, that has monumental implications, all right, and very far-reaching ones for a nation come up and all, you are bound to get different positions that will emerge. And that is to say that at a point in this state, because it depends on the sources from where you're getting your information, at the point in this state, so a few days ago, there was a press conference and release that was made by the, in quote, opposition party, calling for and alleging this issue of staggered elections, so to speak, which was that elections will go on in some states and in other states.
Let me just take this call, Prof. I'll come back to you in a minute. Hello, caller. Good morning. Yes, good morning.
Yeah, good morning, President.
Yes, sir. What's the name and where you calling from?
This is actually I'm calling from
the line is breaking.
I can hear you. I can hear you.
Okay, please go ahead.
I want to salute your president, these people.
Okay.
The masses have already prophesied this before today that the INEC they are going to fail the Nigerians. It is a pity that the sickness of Nigeria needs a medical doctor. We don't know what democracy entails. And look at the INEC, the money was protected. They protected this money against today. And the money they protected now has been wasted. I want to tell you on the vocals that it is a calculative time to rig this election. If you see it is a plan that the election will be rigged. And this is the fear of the electorate. Since we have been telling INEC, I don't prepare, and they are saying they are prepared. If they are prepared, why can't they prove it today? That's why God bless you all.
All right, thank you. There is no way you can substantiate the statement that this is an attempt to rig the election. INEC has given the reasons. I mean, if you monitored our news this morning, you see that at yesterday night, result sheets were not yet available. And that's part of the logistics that INEC cited as one of the reasons for the postponement. So let's give them the benefit of the doubt. But Prof, we had you on.
Yes, the point I was making is that when issues like this come up, then of course, depending on where you stand on the matter, you will have positions that you will adopt, and then you try to justify them. So it is not surprising that with this postponement, ironically, the two political parties are condemning INEC. And that has been happening with the build-up to this election. For a long time, for example, we have been hearing the opposition party, that is PDP, saying that everything that INEC is doing is meant to favor the ruling party. But just some few days ago, the tone changed. And the national chairman of the APC, a very respected former governor here, started saying that INEC is working for the opposition. So this postponement that has come today, you are bound to have different positions as to who is really going to benefit from it. As painful as it is for me, it is still better that rather than having these elections taking place in certain states, and certain states because of whether contrived, but the reality on ground is that certain materials or things were not available. It is better that everything should take place at the same time. And so, like I was trying to point out, it is painful. Resources have been wasted. Lives have been truncated by way of arrangements for today and all, by this postponement. But what we are faced with now is the reality on ground. So, to that extent, you find that the point that he raised as Senegal at the time, when you're talking of this shift staggered, it was that if this election had taken place in some states where things seem to have arrived peacefully and all, then you know the results. Then later you now have others conducting. You know what you are working towards. This is one of the arguments that has come up before now. So for us as a people, it is that we have exhibited to the world, unfortunately, high level of incompetence which is condemnable.
Okay.
But what is important, as I have tried to say elsewhere, is that whatever reasons have been given today, efforts must genuinely, dedicatedly, conscientiously be made to address them. It's unacceptable. Okay. Because we are within how many, what is the distance in Nigeria? Yeah. We are not saying this time that we're talking of riverine areas where it was, the terrain was difficult to get things to. What is difficult in getting things to Benin? How come some items will arrive and you leave back some items?
Okay. Well, one of the major things that has also been at the front burner in the build up to the election was a story of thumb-printed ballot papers that were seen in Kano, and that raised some questions. And then again, the plight of ad hoc staff hired for this election. We've seen on social media and several platforms where many of them are stranded, they don't know where to sleep, they don't know where to go, and it looks like people are not on the ground to be able to guide these people and guard these people to where that's. These are fundamental questions. I mean, doesn't that justify this action that has been taken?
No. You see, it's like I see the position of APC. I see it as propaganda. You see, because why am I saying what I'm saying? You see, INEC, whether we like it or not, you can call it officially, legally, independent, what have you. You see, but the issue is that they are under a government. And whether we like it or not, directly or indirectly, that government has some level of control over what they are doing. So it's like, since the opposition are crying wolf to the postponement of the election, they also just pretend to also be crying, oh, why have these things been done? But those I know, those I know as my friends, you know, in the ruling party, they are celebrating the situation. This is the fact on ground. So this idea of they are so complaining is not real. You see, but the issue is this: what is in the result sheet that cannot be put? Is it gold? Is it made of gold that you don't have enough carat of gold to prepare it? This is ordinary paper. What is serious about result sheet that it cannot make available? I have a serious problem with that. You know, and especially by Wednesday here, according to my legal friend, they were still saying they are sure, so that the election will take place. Even as at yesterday, they were still giving their assurance. So how come all of a sudden the thing just turned around and all that and all? So I think government is supposed to be responsible to its people, to its citizens, and I don't think they demonstrated that. And so when opposition or any other Nigerian now start taking a position, how come there's a sinister move, you know, for this postponement of election? Of course, they have a right to say that. If and now, we have a saying in our tradition, if and now should cry in the night, and the baby not dies the following day, then you don't know that something is wrong. That out that crying in the night was responsible. So this idea of pretending propaganda as if and they are not aware of what has happened is a shame. It's a shame.
All right. Yes.
On the issue of both major parties condemning, that's to be expected.
Okay.
It's natural. Do you expect the ruling party now to say, "Oh yes, we are happy that the election"?
But at the background, they are happy.
You go say it officially.
Have you gone to the background? You've not gone to the background.
It is naturally to be expected that they will condemn it because it is condemnable. But behind the scene, we know what is playing out. The truth is, there is no way all these reasons, like you said, that the reason they've given ballot papers in Kano may have justified it. No. Those reasons, whatever reasons INEC is coming up with now, is self-inflicted. Self-inflicted. Okay. You don't create the situation and then you take advantage of it. They needed to show something. Now, we are talking about the ballot papers from Kano. They were arrested. If police saw ballot papers, which they now say
printed
in favor of the ruling party,
So
all of them, 17 sacks.
17 sacks.
Now, they were arrested. If they were dummy ballots, will the police arrest them? Who printed those ballots? What kind of ballots are they? Why did it make an issue initially when they were arrested? So for me, all those issues may even be the reason, oh, these ballots, we don't have them to use anymore. They may be the real reason why we are postponing the elections.
We don't have that fact.
We can draw reasonable inferences.
Yes.
It is not everything you will get directly. It is not every evidence that can be direct. You can't use circumstantial evidence. In law, we call it circumstantial. As natural persons and intelligent persons, we can draw reasonable inferences. Okay. And so I'm drawing a reasonable inference that this could just be the reason. Oh, the 17 sacks of ballots we plan to use in Kano. We know what happened in Kano the last election. Now we don't have them. Are we still going to go ahead? The result sheets, what would be the reason why we don't have result sheets in some states? Because they want to go and write them elsewhere. They don't want the result sheets to go to the field. So these are reasonable inferences, and whatever it is, I am saying for INEC, they are self-inflicted. And to me, they can no longer be cogent. If as at Wednesday, as at Thursday, as at yesterday, you were saying you were prepared, how come you are, if you didn't have result sheets, why will you say you are prepared? And why with the sensitive, there's a timeline, sensitive materials must arrive, central bank. It ought to have been in central bank. It could have been there a year ago, nothing will happen to it. So how come you are telling us now we don't have result sheets?
Okay, if you just join us, you're on to the live studios of Independent Television and Radio, Nigeria Decides 2019. And some of the stories coming in, President Muhammadu Buhari has said that he was pained beyond words by the news of killings on Friday in Kaduna State. President Buhari, who was reacting to the reports of violent killings in Kajuru local government area of Kaduna State, described the gruesome murder of about 66 persons as an act of cowardice and assured that security forces will investigate and apprehend all those involved. President Buhari, in a statement by a senior special assistant on media and publicity, Malashiu Garuba, said the action will distract the nation from the elections, assuring that his government is determined to foil the designs of those who want to disrupt the exercise. The election has been postponed anyway. House of Representatives has decried the postponement of the general elections earlier scheduled for today. Spokesman for the House, Abdul Razak Namdaz, described the postponement as unfortunate. He expressed hope that the postponement will be a blessing in disguise for the country, adding that it is better to have an election that is credible than to rush and conduct the election with issues. INEC has postponed the presidential and National Assembly elections from February 16 to 23 and moved the governorship and State House of Assembly elections from March 2 to March 9. The Apex Igbo Social Cultural Organization, Ohaneze Digbo, has described the postponement of the presidential and National Assembly elections as a root shock. The organization, however, said that it would not draw conclusions on the matter yet until after the stakeholders meeting slated by the Independent National Electoral Commission to clarify the circumstances. A statement, Assistant National Publicity Secretary of Ohaneze Ndigbo, Mr. Chuks Ibegbu, stated this in Enugu while reacting to the shift in the dates of the general election. Mr. Ibegbu said, such uncertainty in the implementation of plans is characteristic of human nature. He, however, said it is regrettable that the elections did not go on as planned, considering the fact that the electoral body has told Nigerians of its readiness to conduct the polls. Meanwhile, the federal government has reopened the land borders which were earlier shut ahead of today's election. The reopening followed the postponement of the presidential and National Assembly elections to next week, Saturday. Comptroller General of Immigration, Muhammad Babandede, disclosed in a statement that the Minister of Interior, Abdulrahman Dambazar, gave the directive. He said Lieutenant General Abdulrahman Dambazar, retired, has ordered the reopening of all land borders earlier closed due to the postponement of elections scheduled for today. The statement said Nigerian immigration officers will continue the normal border patrol duties to ensure that all persons crossing the land, air, and sea borders travel with a valid and genuine document and also pass through recognized roads. The service had earlier deployed its rapid response squad and other personnel numbering over 10,000 to land borders and the hinterland as part of measures to prevent infiltration of the country by foreigners. Meanwhile, a statement by Mr. President says is deeply disappointed that despite the long notice given and preparations both locally and internationally, the Independent National Electoral Commission (INEC) postponed the presidential and National Assembly elections within hours of its commencement. Many Nigerians have traveled to various locations to exercise their right to vote, and international observers are gathered. INEC themselves have given assurances day after day and almost hour after hour that they are in complete readiness for the election. We and all our citizens believe them. This administration has assured that we do not interfere in any way with the work of INEC except to ensure that all funds were released to the Commission. We now urge INEC to ensure not only that materials already distributed are safe and do not get into wrong hands, but that everything is done to avoid the lapses that resulted in this unfortunate postponement and ensure a free and fair election on the rescheduled dates. While I reaffirm my strong commitment to the independence, neutrality of the electoral umpire and the sanctity of the electoral process and ballot, I urge all political stakeholders and Nigerians to continue to rally round INEC at this trying national moment in our democratic journey. I therefore appeal to all Nigerians to refrain from all civil disorder and remain peaceful, patriotic, and united to ensure that no force or conspiracy derail our democratic development. I have decided to move back to Abuja to ensure that the 1400 hours meeting called by INEC with all stakeholders is successful. Yours sincerely, President Muhammadu Buhari, from Dara, February 16, 2019. That's just an update to some of the stories coming in as a result of the postponement of the 2019 election. The last being that from President Muhammadu Buhari, because earlier today, Barrister B. Thomas and my panelists here demanded an apology from Mr. President. But he has released a press statement talking to Nigerians to be united and forge a common front at this trying moment, quoting him correctly. So that's where we are right now. Well, gentlemen, I'd like to get reactions from some of the thoughts that have come forward from those reports. From those reports that we've heard so far. But like we said, we'll be bringing you live feeds from some of our reporters on the ground to let us know what the situation is in town. I'm sure we have just one of them right now ready to update us with the situation in town on the postponement of the 2019 election. But one question that has been crossing my mind, what is the guarantee following this postponement?
Yes.
What is the guarantee following this postponement?
Exactly.
Well, let's find out who is on the line. Yes, we have on the line Best Mbiri. Best, good morning and thank you for joining us on Nigerian Decides Live Studios. How are you today? Okay, so talk to us. What's the situation in town?
Well, it's not funny for Nigerians that actually spoke with us today. Very early this morning, we went around various polling units, and they spoke with us. Some of them even protested. They displayed their permanent voter cards and making sure that they were ready to exercise their franchise. But I say their disappointment, they were told that the election has been postponed. And in other places, particularly the commercial bus drivers, we equally met with them, told us they were hired by the umpire, INEC itself, for them to convey staff and materials to various polling units. And from Friday, early morning, Friday morning, to this time, nobody is communicating to them as to who is going to pay them for the time they spend. We met those ones as well. We also met with vendors who said they were voters in a particular polling unit and that they were hoping to cast their vote and thereafter make quick brick business. But they were equally disappointed that the election has been postponed. They lamented that they haven't spent so much in preparing the meals. There are no customers to patronize them. So in all, it's actually not be funny. I met with one of the candidates for the ADP, Payat. In his words, he said this is political, economical, and social sabotage to Nigeria and the national embarrassment, particularly Nigeria is now in the eyes of the international community, looking forward to see what will happen at the end of the election. So, by and large, the electorate are not happy, and the candidates themselves who said they invested so much and waiting for today, they are equally not happy as well.
Okay, let me just take you back a little bit to those you said are wondering who will pay them monies that are outstanding. Were you able to get any official statement in that direction?
No, I met official on the ground at the time we visited that particular local government headquarters of INEC. No one was on ground to talk to us, and then I asked the drivers themselves. They said that the leadership of the union were pacifying them to hold on, that they were going to reach out to the INEC officials with a view to getting their pay for the day. But before we left there, they were still hoping, they were still there with their vehicles, hoping that something will be done.
Okay, but generally, the areas that you monitor, they are peaceful, right?
Yes, it's been peaceful. We equally visited market places. Initially, they all shut down, but a couple of minutes ago, they are coming out in trickles. Having now been told that elections will no longer take place. They want to face the business for the day. Otherwise, in the very hours of today, we had few vehicles in between each other, no very light traffic, I mean, and of course, business centers were shut. But for some minutes now, we've observed they are gradually coming back to business.
All right, thank you, Best Mbiri. Many thanks for the update. Hope to have you on board later today when you filed out this report. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a nice day. Bye-bye.
Best Mbiri there giving us updates from Ego Axis and several other places she's visited to give us an update on the reactions of the electorate on the postponement of the 2019 election. But Stevie Thomas, we're back to you now. Take it easy. Just take it easy.
It's just that we celebrate mediocrity in Nigeria. We celebrate failure. Otherwise, I can't see anybody supporting this kind of thing. Some call it force majeure, some call it emergencies. We celebrate failure. In good countries, things like this don't happen. I mean, the people in fact, I said something a few days ago here. It appears that the more educated Nigerians are, the more they celebrate failure. Now, in other countries, elections take place. You don't declare holidays. You don't restrict movement. People just go. Vote. Why? Because they are prepared. Better prepared. In Nigeria, incompetence, the idea of nepotism, the idea of being afraid to speak, intimidation reigns, and that allows mediocrity to reign. We have just heard about the issue of 17 bags of electoral materials printed in Kano for APC. The question is this: if you can hurriedly arrange the CJN in court, you can hurriedly arrange Melai in court, what about those people who were seen with those 17 bags of electoral materials? Which court have they been taken to?
Investigation is still ongoing.
It is always ongoing. When it is in favor of the opposition, investigation is ongoing. It was even said in the beginning the other time that once you join APC, all your sins are forgiven.
Sin no more.
So I don't know. And like I said before, I will say it here again. I will never work for government. Those who work for government can go on air and be defending what they like. I will say my own as a private man. These people who were seen with these electoral materials should have been charged to court the next day. So Nigerians will know that the police are not supporting what has happened. Now, you see a country, 2 days ago I said, if election ends now, INEC should not go and sleep. Rather, they should begin preparing
For the next
for the
election.
next one coming up 4 years time.
Okay.
What have we seen with this INEC? We have been seeing series of problems, beginning with what they call a Waziri. Remove her, they said they won't remove her. Then this one, who is the chairman now, was seen with PDP campaign cap on his head.
Was it PDP or APC campaign?
Sorry, please. APC campaign cap on his head. He did not resign. And you want
But that could be coincidental by Sabitha.
Don't give
maybe from the
see,
same
I said the
designer.
more educated you are in Nigeria, the more you begin to give,
Justify.
you begin to rationalize for failure. If I am the head of a team that is supposed to conduct elections, and my dress coincides with one of the parties, and I say it is coincidence, I should resign. Because people no longer have confidence in me.
Okay.
My integrity is at stake.
Okay.
So, for you to now, like we have said, there are so many collateral losses involved in this postponement.
Okay.
And it is not for anybody in APC, not for them to start crying, oh, we are affected. This is something you wanted all along. So don't cry. Nigerians are the ones who are the losers. The money voted for INEC to prepare is our money, our taxes. Those who have left Kano to run to the east to go and vote or to go in anticipation of any crisis there, these people have made colossal losses. And I pray none of them get any accident on the way. Are you going to ask them to go back now and come back again next week? No. They have voted budget for themselves. How will they survive? Then you talk of the businesses from Blessing-Bebe just now.
Yeah.
Your reporter, that people lock their shops in anticipation. Many of them did not have access to light, to electricity, to know that this election has already been postponed. Only to get this money. Many of them are not going back. They've let losses.
Okay.
We should not celebrate.
All right, let me proceed.
We should not celebrate it.
By David Thomas. Yes, Prof.
Yeah.
Counting the cost really on this election postponement.
Yes.
Can we talk about that?
Well, from a
In addition to what you had initially.
Many things, of course, and even at a personal level, to give you the kind of things that Nigerians might have had to sacrifice for today. Today happens to be the 6th Memorial Day of my mom's death. And we have, over the years, that is since the past 5 years, always tried to mark it in my village, go to church, pray and everything. My younger ones, we all travel down. But in the light of this day, being a day when there will be no movement, that is vehicular and all of that especially, we had to shelve it. And we've heard of people, marriages, personal, so many things, businesses and all. It is quite enormous. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Schools, as I mentioned earlier on, schools have had to close down. That is, go on compulsory midterm breaks for some of them. Universities that have been shut down since November last year because of ASU strike. The university senates and all have had to meet to talk of new academic calendar. And they figured in these elections. And so it was now being proposed, like University of Benin, that students should start coming in on the 4th of March, believing that elections would have been over by then. But again, of course, this has had to come up. And we must still bear in mind, people may have had to shift their plans from this weekend to next weekend. That next weekend now, everything is scuttled. Flights have been booked. And as has been said, many people have traveled from all over. And as the barrister mentioned earlier, is that if you are an observer or you are participating in these elections, you've come down. You will say, I'm going to be in Nigeria for the next 4 or 5 days, and I need social bookings in the hotels. They provide the funds for you. And all of a sudden, this kind of thing has come up. So I think that it is obvious that it has really created a lot of destabilization in personal lives, business lives, commercial through business lives. Almost everything has been affected by this cancel or postponement that has occurred.
Okay.
The point we must bear in mind here, and I will want the barrister to take it from us. When I say us, people that might be saying, let us look at what reasons are they giving. That I wouldn't see somebody going to the street now to start carrying, celebrating things, to say, oh, thank God this thing has happened. Because we are all now on Facebook, social media, and picking things. Have you read the portion where it is that this is U.S. action that has succeeded in preventing rigging of the election? And what is the logic behind it? It is that assertion previously, that if this election had gone on in the states where things were ready, the other states would have become states that would be susceptible to manipulation. But that has now been stopped. We should at least take that positive part of it, that come next Saturday or so, the elections can take place simultaneously across the country. This, I think, is something that we must bear in mind.
All right.
So for me, it is not that anyone is saying that, one, we accept the explanation given by INEC because it seems contrived and it is something that would have been avoidable. It is not that anyone is saying celebration time, but it's that in the face of what we have been told, in the face of all the allegations on ground, it is that in the realistic thing to do now is to make sure that all those things that are making these elections not be possible will be taken care of. Please, let us take note. It is not only the result sheets that they said were missing in some of the states. In Niger State, I'm just trying to give information now. Okay. In Niger State, it was alleged that certain senatorial materials and House of Rep materials were missing, had not arrived. It was stated that in the case of Enugu, for example, the flight that was carrying the material allegedly could not land because of visibility problem, had to move over to Port Harcourt. This was being given. It is also being alleged in certain areas, of course we've heard of the burning and things that have happened, that all of these seem to have been part of the, if we now call it a plan, to make it seem that things were not purely ready for the elections to go on. So the fact is now, what is before us is that these things as they stand are the reasons that have been given. And I believe all Nigerians have said it is not acceptable that for all the resources that have been invested in INEC, for the time that they had, and all, these lapses should not have actually played out at all. And it's most unfortunate.
All right, Prof. Ijewere, this from current updates looks like it's a blessing in disguise.
There are some blessings in disguise that are natural, but this one is a fake blessing in disguise. Fake blessing in disguise in the sense that all assurances as of yesterday was given that all was well. And Duke, let's face this thing realistically. You see, when we're looking at the resources, you see, we're not talking about APC or PDP here. We're talking about the future of Nigeria. We're talking about the future of democracy in this country. And our democracy, whether we like it or not, is still fragile. And so by the time you start to have all these hiccups, you know, in the process of stabilizing our democracy, then we're in trouble. By the time we start to have this political interference, by the time we start to have the input of cabal, and so on and so forth, then we're in trouble. So we cannot stabilize our polity. So I think we're, as somebody's wife, if you like, came out and said, hey, this, if we all saw it, she gave a press conference, the president's wife, that, hey, some cabals are in charge of Aso Rock, and that Nigerian men, what are you doing? You people should do so. In other words, he's saying that we should be involved. Can't we see what is going on in Aso Rock and all that and all that? So, my brother, if you put all these things together, that is why the excuse INEC is giving is not acceptable. His actions is a very big suspect, especially when you take into consideration what the monumental loss of our resources and individuals that have lost business. Okay, is INEC now going to do a census to say, okay, what have you lost? Let's see how we can compensate you. The drivers were complaining just now. How are they going to be compensated? Sometimes some of these problems are artificially created, you know, so that a positive election will not take place. We are aware of all this. So I think those in the helm of affairs, politicians, no matter the party you belong to, they should know that the democracy is a national project, and every person must approach it, you know, realistically, taking into consideration the future of this country and not necessarily personal interest. You know. So when we do that, I think the democracy will move forward.
All right, then let me just bring another dimension to this conversation, beginning with Barrister Ade Asenongwa, because this is legal. The Attorney General of the Federation, Minister of Justice, has written to INEC to create more time for the Zamfara state to be able to participate in the governorship election. I mean, with this postponement, I'm sure that seems to be a blessing in disguise. I don't know what your thoughts are along those lines.
Well, Sonny, you are using the phrase blessing in disguise. I want to call it postponement of the evil day. Yes. When something happens and you are not able to say, oh, there are some futuristic things that may have been prevented or that may work out for your good, then you can call that a blessing in disguise. But for you to also call it, you'll eventually see, if this thing had happened that
this
time,
side would have gone.
Exactly. So let us wait and see what happens next Saturday.
Okay.
Then we will now say, oh, well, then it was
a blessing in disguise.
For me, that the US said, oh, don't stagger the election. Of course, what would have been your reason for staggering the election? I've always raised one issue. When we were having elections, governorship elections in one state, we would deploy security agents from all over the country to go to the state. And we had raised the issue. When it now comes to national election, how are we going to cope?
You borrow security agents.
How are we going to cope? It has always been an issue. You want to go and do election in Ekiti. You move men from Sokoto, from Edo, from Ondo, more than 7 surrounding states. Policemen will go. Immigration will go. Security, defense, and whatever they call them, they will go. What prison warders will go? For goodness sake. Elections in Nigeria, they are like warfare. Why? Why can't I be in Lagos? I registered in Edo and cast my vote in Lagos using the code of my polling unit, because everything is becoming electronic. If I have an account in one bank in Akpakpava, I can go to Sokoto and do my transaction using my account. With all the electronic this thing that we are doing now, why can't I stay in Kano, even if I'm in Edo, or I registered in Edo, and vote in Kano, and my vote will count in my unit? So for me, the issue of blessing in disguise, let us wait and see. It is only when, because of this postponement, next Saturday everything goes well, smoothly, credibly, then we can say, well, okay, let us now justify this postponement. That because of this postponement, we got this result. Then secondly, on the issue of the Attorney General, the courts have made pronouncements.
All right, we'll come back to you in a moment, by Saide Asenogwa. We have one of our reporter live joining us now. Wellington Akodaja is live, ready to give us an update on the election. All right, so hello, Wellington. Okay, we have McDonald Eunohai. That's our Edo North Bureau Chief. McDonald, good morning.
Morning, Mr. Tony.
Yes, you're reporting live from Edo North now. What exactly are you?
I'm at Auchi by Geturo Junction.
So tell us what.
Junction.
Tell us what's the situation in Auchi.
Actually, everything is calm. People are moving. No, though, as I started in the morning, there was no much movement. From all the venue I visited, the gate to them were locked. So I'm still on the street at the moment. I'm at Auchi by Geturo Junction. Just by one newspaper staff, people are reading the newspaper. The movement is as usual, moving. So what I'm saying, don't turn out at the election venue.
And the place is, and the environment is peaceful.
It's peaceful, yes. People are moving about their normal business. Though the early hour mood was that all stores were locked. Until I'm sure the news got round and they now knew that the election has been postponed. At every venue I visited, there was no turnout. Yeah.
All right, thank you, McDonald Eunohai, joining us from Auchi, Edo North Senatorial District. The situation is the same. People now are going about their normal duties with the news that has gone around that the election has been postponed. Now we're back to the studio. By Saturday, Asenogwa, you want to say something?
Yes. Now, for me, the letter from the Attorney General it's unfortunate, most unfortunate. You don't make such pronouncements by letters. Of course, I also read that he has denied doing that letter. Maybe after the reaction.
An afterthought.
Yes. And that calls to mind why we keep calling for a separation of the office of the Attorney General from that of the Minister for Justice. You see, that office is an office where it must be a lawyer occupying it, and then your thoughts, your opinions, your comments must be based on law, not politics, not sentiment, not based on the party you are from or the president that appointed you. Because to say in the face of court orders, now look, there was no election, don't recognize the candidates of a particular political party in this area, and then the Attorney General will now do a letter and say, oh, postpone elections based on and giving time lag for one particular party for their own self-inflicted errors to make those corrections. You don't do that by a letter. You go back to court and let the court make that order to say, well, INEC, this is what you must do.
Okay.
And I'm happy that I think it was Wole Uzi, Osaze Uzi, who said, well, they are not going to recognize that letter, that insofar as there is no order from the court giving INEC such directives, they were not going to honor it. And so for me, the letter is of no moment, and I believe that the Attorney General should be more circumspect in the things he does and say because of the office he occupies. That office is the chief law officer of the country. And so whatever you say must be the position of the law at all times.
Okay. Thank you so much. Master Ibi
On
Thomas.
the issue of Attorney General's letter.
Yes.
This Attorney General was the legal advisor of CPC, Buhari's party. And this man, I think he will be one of the first 5 after Buhari leaves that power to be recommended to Nigerian Bar Association Privileges Committee to be stripped of their sonship. Because this is the kind of thing our Adoka was doing under Abacha. What is the business of Attorney General of the Federation to be writing to INEC? If you people believe that INEC is actually independent, what is the business of the Attorney General of the Federation to be writing to INEC to do something? And yet you are saying INEC is independent. How independent is INEC? So as I was talking earlier on, I said INEC was ready as at yesterday, but there was a thought, there was an influence on them in the night. I was being told, what is the proof? The Attorney General's attitude to this election, he is not seeing himself as a lawyer who is the chief law officer and the chief legal advisor to the Federation, not the chief legal advisor to the president. Whoever is the president does not have Attorney General as his chief legal advisor. He is the chief legal advisor of the nation. He is still carrying on as CPC lawyer. And this is not good for the independence of INEC. You come and write letter to INEC, and I'm happy. I'm happy. In spite of all the criticisms against INEC, I am happy that they got 1/100.
That shows they're independent.
No, I said 1/100.
At least.
Well, if somebody says 1/100 is a pass, for me, it is one of the biggest failures. Because when I wrote mathematics and a wife gave me F9 in my mathematics, I congratulated them because they couldn't have given me F19. Because the highest,
the worst they can do
is to give me F9. And I knew I didn't merit a pass in mathematics. So if INEC got 1/100 for refusing the Attorney General's letter, it is bad and it is condemnable. And the disciplinary bodies in Nigeria Association should take note of the antecedents of these lawyers working for this present government.
Okay. Prof, you want to get some thoughts along those lines. Then in this build-up to the election, to the supposed election today, stories came from different parts of the country of INEC's office being raised and all of that. Papers, PVCs destroyed. And some are even saying that INEC is yet to tell us how many PVCs have been collected so far in total. We'll have one of our reporters on the ground now that will talk to us shortly. This is Deborah Ogbefun live. Deborah, good morning. Thank you for joining on our live studios.
Thank you, Sonny.
Yes, exactly where are you now?
I'm in Oredo local government area.
All right, give us a situation report from Oredo.
Okay, we spoke from electorate in the morning in Oredo local government area, and they described the police appointing. They said they are not happy at all that the election they are already prepared for with the activities and everything ready to cast their election.
To cast their votes? Okay. Okay.
As it was proposed.
Yeah.
We visited some designated polling centers at Georgida Police Center, Oba Market, in Mokpai, Mission Road, and other places, where the electorate, just few of them, came out to exercise their civic responsibility. But unfortunately for them, we discovered that the place was under lock. They could have the vote. They said they were so disappointed and they discovered that the election had been postponed. What I feel in all this is that it appears that the event of today was necessitated by the social media, because people went round as if it was just like a wildfire. Okay. A lot of people were aware that the election has been postponed, because eventually all the places we went to, these two affected the electorate.
Yeah.
Because as if they were already aware that the election has been postponed.
Yeah. So they stayed back at home.
Yes, yes.
Okay, all right. Thank you, Deborah.
So information circulated on time, and it played a vital role. Social media played a vital role in today's development.
Okay.
Because a lot of people were not on ground.
Okay.
They were already aware that the election was postponed. For example, in New Benin, it discovered that there was a full-blown business going on in a New Benin market. The women said they were already aware that they put information on time, so they went about their daily businesses.
All right. Thank you, Deborah. Deborah is reporting live from Oredo, giving us updates on the